The presentation today is about Alan Esparza Gutierrez. I just want to make sure I pronounce his name right. He is going to be our presenter today, and he's just going to share his challenges coming from Mexico to America, and he happens to be our student USG president. He's also the student rep for the board, OSU Marion's board, as well as he works in the Office of Student Life and Diversity and Inclusion with myself. He is from Chihuahua, Mexico, and that's the first time I've heard of Chihuahua, Mexico, which tells you I don't get to travel as much. But at this time, I would like for you to give a warm welcome to Alan Esparza Gutierrez.
Thank you everyone for coming. Can you guys hear me all right? Yeah? Okay, good. Like Sean said, most of you know me as Alan. My name, as I would say, is Alan Gerardo Esparza Gutierrez. I am from Chihuahua, and first I'm going to tell you a little bit about my childhood and how it was different from here and some of the things I did and the challenges I had. So I was born in Mexico, in Chihuahua. Then throughout kindergarten and elementary school, we always had this sort of cultural, festive time of the year around Independence Day, where we would do plays about how Christopher Columbus came to America and discovered it and whatnot. I always knew him as Cristobal Colon, which is how we refer to him over in Mexico. And then during second grade, I moved to Colorado here in the United States, where I had an aunt, and I went to school there for second grade all the year. There was not a lot of extracurricular things, not a lot of things where children were involved. That was a big difference because I was always one of those kids that would sing in the kindergarten plays or whatnot. But what really helped me during second grade in Colorado was this kind of mentality that they had. They made reading a competition between all of the students. So everyone had a place of how well they read. Of course, I went in, I didn't know any English, so I was last place because I could not read a book. But with some help and with time, I was able to develop some skills. At the end of second grade, I was the second best reader in the grade. I was very proud of that. It helped me a lot with English. Then after second grade, I moved back to Mexico. What I saw differently when I went back to Mexico after having an experience here was there wasn't a lot because it was elementary school and you're just kids learning and not really paying attention to the rest of the world. But the history that they taught us in school, we were taught history every year in all the grades that I had. In Mexico, it was world history and ancient history of here in America. All that I've heard of here was American history. That was a big contrast. I didn't understand it then, but I'm not very understanding of it now because I'm not very good with history. But when you're in this country, they like to teach you a lot about the precedents that were here, how America is great. But over there, they always taught you of all the history everywhere, how America was discovered, not only that they were friends with the Pilgrims and whatnot. No, there was violence there. They taught you about the Aztecs and other ancient tribes, which mostly about the ones that were around in Mexico, because that's what you would know. But still, they taught you about more than just the history of America. That was a big contrast that I could see when I was a child. As I went into middle school, 6th grade in Mexico is part of elementary school, 6th grade here is part of middle school. So I will count 6th grade as elementary school in Mexico. I will not talk about that. I started middle school here. I went to 7th and 8th grade here. Because of my last name, which is obviously Hispanic, not from this country, I was tested to see if I needed to be in the ESL program, which is the English as a Second Language program. And I did pretty good, although even though I tested out of it, they still wouldn't let you be out of it if you were out of the country. So we had this sort of tutor that would come in during English class and sit with me and see if I'm doing things right or if I'm doing things wrong. If we took tests, we would take it over with the tutor instead of with the teacher. It's meant to help, but it made things a lot easier. The tutor would help you a lot, even though I guess they're not supposed to. They would help you a lot with the quizzes, like, here's an answer. And that didn't necessarily help me get better at English. That helped me be lazy. That helped me to want to not do as much work and still get a good grade. The people that go into ESL kind of stay in ESL during all the years that they're in school for. And I think that's why. But after 8th grade, I moved back to Mexico. So I did a lot of jumping around. Then I saw new differences. When I started 9th grade in Mexico, during the recess hour, everyone would go out to the field and play soccer. Soccer's a really big deal in Mexico. We would all play soccer. We had uniforms, we had nice dress shoes, but even with the dress shoes, we would play soccer. It didn't matter to us. Here in Columbus, football was a really big deal, but it was all after school. During recess, everybody would just eat lunch. They all called it lunch too. No one would go outside and play a lot of sports. If people ever went outside, they would just walk and talk. And in Colorado, where the population is mainly Hispanic, although the students had not been to Mexico, they were Hispanic, they were raised here. There was also no recess time where people would go out and play. There was football as an extracurricular, but people played it, but it wasn't a big deal. Sports weren't a big deal down there. It was mainly who can get the most girls, who can get the most friends, who can sit with the most people at lunch, which was just an interesting contrast between a Hispanic population that has never been part of the Mexican culture except for through their parents. Hispanic culture down in Mexico, where everybody is a lot more friendly. Everybody went together to the game of soccer. Everybody played the game. No one was left out ever. And then here in Columbus, where you would go, the only time you would do a sport was after school. Only some people got to play. There was a team. There was never anything where everyone would participate, except for watching the game. But not everyone can do that. Everyone can be there at school, not everyone can be there after school. That was a little more of the contrast I saw between Mexico and here. Then we got to high school, and after 8th grade, I went back to Mexico, did 9th grade there, and then that was actually the end of middle school in Mexico. 9th grade is still middle school in Mexico. I did 9th grade, it was fine. Then I did the first half of 10th grade down there, where I went to a school where you would finish with a technical degree and your high school diploma. So the school down there, if I had kept going, my technical program was electromechanics. You would do a lot of that during the school. Then you would choose a focus. I would have chosen math and science because that's what I like. But the first semester, which is all that I went to, was very focused on how to develop yourself as a person or a citizen, instead of, hey, we have this test like the OGT, you have to study for it, you have to pass it to graduate. No. My classes were citizenship development, problem solving, personal and professional projection, communication for social interactions. Besides, I had math and writing, because that's very important. You can't not have those. Then I came here, and it was all the same as I had in elementary school and middle school. You still had to have your 4 years of math, 4 years of science, your history. There was never any class that you had to take that was like problem solving or citizenship development. Nothing here helped you become a better person, to be more prepared for life. Everything here was, here's this test. We want you to pass this test, like the OGT. We want you to do well in the ACTs. We want you to get into college. Over there, they cared, we want you to be successful as a person. Let's train you to be better at interviews, to know how to get the job, to know how to do well in the job, to know how to interact with other people. Even in 10th grade, where if any of you go out and talk to a 10th grader, they're not very complex. They can't hold an intellectual conversation or something interesting. They can talk to you about, I hate this teacher and I love lunch. It's my favorite subject at school. That was a shock. After having those classes and understanding what it'd be like to be in the professional world, and then coming back and sort of backtracking to what I had been doing, I was a little dumbfounded by what was happening. My grades did drop. Maybe also because of the language barrier a little bit, but I had 3 years of school here before. I was good with the language. But what backtracked me even more was coming to my high school here in the United States. I was never tested for ESL again. I guess they counted me as, oh, you already did your school here for a while, let's not put you in it anymore. I wasn't tested for math, I wasn't tested for anything. They put me into the beginning classes of high school. They put me into all freshman courses. That made the rest of my high school very difficult and very demanding. I had to meet all the requirements that everyone else had to meet in 4 years, but I had the 2.5 years that I had left in high school. So, I took a couple sciences together, took a couple histories together, took my English courses and my math courses, and as you can see, since I'm here, I was able to finish all 4 years of high school in 2.5. But no one ever took into account, as the time kept going, I became a junior, I became a senior. No one ever took into account that I was a year behind in my classes. No one took into account that I was from another country. No one took into account that my parents had not gone to college. So when it was time to apply for college, to get ready for the ACTs, I didn't know. I was just continuing with my life. It was after February, my senior year, and my advisor said, hey, why haven't you submitted your Common App or taken your ACT? And I said, what are those? So, I wasn't helped a lot where I should have been helped. But I got through it. The only school that would take my application so late after the deadline was over was OSU. I still had to complete my FAFSA even though it was after the deadline. Got some help there. But the person that helped me the most was a student worker down in Columbus. I went to their admissions, and she went through the whole application process with me. She told me what to do, how to do it, all the time. Her name's Maggie McCormick. I don't know if by a long shot anybody knows her, but I only met her once, and the rest was through email. She helped me get into college, basically. But my high school was kind of, I don't know if they were just upset at me, but they would not let me apply to college. I tried, and they said, well, we don't have your transcripts from Mexico, so we can't let you apply. And we can't send your transcript. Then after I got it to them, they said, oh, well, we can't take this. It was faxed from Mexico with the seal of originality and a signature. But they would not take that because recently, apparently, someone had done the same thing, and it was false. It was a fake. So they told me, no, you know what, get a sent from Mexico, because that would be a lot more simple. But of course it wasn't. I tried to get it from Mexico. They needed me to be there only because my mom knew someone that worked in the high school. Was I able to get the transcript all the way over here, because they would not let me if I did not go back and get it myself. They sent it, it was signed, and a seal of approval. Then I finally was able to finish my application, though it was a lot later now. OSU didn't want to see the application. But Maggie helped me out. She was wonderful. And that's how I got here. Then the rest of the story is just how I've been in college. But the other problems that I had in school, because apparently my high school was very against me, I had custody issues. According to the state of Ohio, if your parents never get married, your mother is who has full custody of you. Although I was born in Mexico, my parents were never married. When I came here, I was living with my dad. My mom was still in Mexico. My mom had all the custody. So here, they didn't want to accept me. They wanted to kick me out of my high school because my mom had my custody in Mexico. Even though, I went in, talked to everyone that I could. They have this no child left behind policy, but they kicked me out of high school anyways, because maybe only one child left behind. It's not that bad. So I kept trying to go, even though I was kicked out. Then they would send me home. They sent me home a few times. I stopped trying for a week. I started going swimming to the Y instead of going to school, which wasn't great for my grades either. One day on the way back home from the Y, I live very close to the Y in Columbus, so I could walk there. I was stopped by the cops. They told me, hey, how come you're not in your school right now? You're supposed to be in school. I told them, oh, well, they kicked me out. I can't go to school. Check the records. Of course, on the records, I'm still in school. I'm supposed to be in school. So I was taken to a truancy center. I took a test that asked, are your parents neglecting you? Why are you going to high school? Do you hate your teachers? Are you mentally damaged in some way? But no, it was all just problems with the high school, with custody, with the government. We tried to send the custody papers over to Mexico like 4 times. They always got lost. They always got there late. I don't know what I was supposed to do. Do I take over the mailing system and try to get it to Mexico faster? That was not possible until finally we sent the 5th every one of these things that we sent was $100. So after $500, we got a paper to Mexico so my mom could sign it and send it back. And then that was it. That was all. They only needed her signature. Like, I would have not thought that it was going to be that simple, but you know, need a signature, pay $500, take all this time, get kicked out of school just to go back to school. They didn't give me a break, you know, here is all that you missed, now you have to do it. My grades went down again that semester. So I did not have a great track record in high school, but I fixed it now that I was in college. It's surprising that America or the United States or just Ohio would have these many rules and laws that are supposed to protect children, but coming from another country, it was like none of those applied to me. No one would help me in any way. I was on my own with my parents. You have to do everything. Every single step, no one's gonna help you, and you still are expected to do great, to get into a good college, to have the best scores, to have all the extracurriculars. No one cares about you're from another country, you speak a different language, you have a different family situation. No, nothing's taken into account. Everyone is thrown into the same pit and let's see who can come out. Some people are giving weapons to see if you can come out of the pit. Like being born here, I would say was a weapon to help you come out of the pit. Knowing the language ever since you were small. But, you know, if you don't have the weapons, it takes you a lot more effort, a lot more sweat, a lot more tears to still try to come out on top. And, you know, it's not realistic that you will come out on top if you are not helped in any way by anybody. So that is my little bit of a sob story of how I came here. If anybody has any questions, I can answer them. There are a lot of other things that I didn't go into detail about because, well, too personal. Can't tell you everything. Yes?
Where are you going?
Where am I going? My plan is to be a surgeon. I plan to do a dual degree after undergrad, do an MD and a PhD at the same time. That's a tough goal to reach. You know, they don't accept that many people. Your GPA has to be the top. You gotta say my GPA is around what the average GPA acceptance is of that. So I fixed my grades in college. I really want to be able to help people as a surgeon, as a doctor, get them healthy. Not only that, it pays a lot, which I don't plan on keeping all the money for me. I plan on being able to help all of my family reach their goals with a job that pays well. Send money to my mother, to my brothers, to my siblings, everybody that'll need the help that I didn't get. Westerville North, down in Columbus, Westerville there. Any other questions? Yes?
How did your dad move to the area?
So when I was like 1 or 2, my dad came here because my uncle was here. He was moved here because of his job. My dad came to visit and he just never went back to Mexico. And that was in Finley, and then they ended up in Columbus, and then I ended up in Columbus with them. Any other questions?
I have a question. So I think for a lot of people, we think about Columbus as being much more diverse than we are here in Marion County.
Was the high school you went to, was there a lot of diversity there? Do you feel like, were there other ESL students that you were maybe getting more help than you were getting?
There was diversity, you know. Still, the majority of the students were white. The majority of the diverse students were African American, and I had a table. I sat with the other Hispanic students. We were 10 in that school. We were not the only ones getting ESL, but there was 10 of us. We kind of stuck together, try to help each other out in some things, but you know, when you're in a system of a government or a school, there's not much a student can do for another student. So it was diverse, but not the most diverse. You have a question, Kathy?
Oh, I just was wondering how your experience here, you know, how have you been since you've been in college? I know it was a rough road getting here, but you got here, and how is it, you know, making you and where you're going?
Yeah, so I have people to thank, like Sean Jackson, Linda Behan, a lot of my professors. They've helped me out a lot. Professors here in college do take, or at least here in Ohio State Marion, do take that extra step to help the students out. That I can vouch for that. The job here that I have on campus, you know, is not the best paying job, but I can do it between my classes. It helps me pay for my rent. I've gotten scholarships from the campus, so I have to worry less about working and trying to pay all my bills than about keeping my grades up. You know, my goal is to get into medical school. I need to have good grades for that. So my goal every semester is to get the best grades I can. And all of my professors and all of the people I work with really help with that. So my experience has been great here. Anybody else?
Why dual degree? What's the PhD?
The PhD would allow me to do research as well as practice at the same time. You can do that separately, but it takes longer. Like doing a specialization takes longer. I can just do it at the same time, and it shaves off like a year or two. But you know, you can help as a surgeon, just anybody that comes by. But if you can come up with new techniques, new drugs, new something, then you can help a lot more people. Anybody else? Yes.
Is that where the electrical side of your previous background, you were interested in electrical stuff and that stuff, and that's where you research a lot?
I gotta say, that was right after middle school, and my friends went into the program of electromechanics, and so I went in there as well. I'm not really interested in anything that's on the engineering side. I like the science side, biology, chemistry. I went into the program just because my friends did. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you all for coming. There's still pizza if anybody wants any.